Okay, kids, it's time for another episode of the Fueled by Weird podcast, the only podcast to see more glims than Lincoln Bright. I'm Chris Daly, and today I'd like to welcome my very special guest, Mr. David Fielding. David, how are you doing tonight, sir?
I am doing all right. I'm doing all right. Not as big and blue as I used to be, but I'm all right. I'm all right.
That's very true. For those who don't know, David also played Zordon from the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. This is a big deal for me. I'm super stoked. 10-year-old me is just so excited that I get to talk to Zordon, and just
Right,
it's
right.
it's a cool moment. So thank you very much for joining me tonight. I appreciate it.
Happy to be here.
Awesome. All right, so I usually like to start these things off with an icebreaker question. So today's icebreaker question is, if you could have an unlimited supply of one thing, what would it be?
Beef jerky is
Oh,
probably
that's a good one.
that would be the unlimited supply that I could get
That's
through life with that, I think. Yeah.
that's a very, very good one.
Yeah.
Um, I kind of went the same route a little bit. Uh, so I was shopping at Costco with my family one time, and I apologize, I'm just rearranging my notes. Like I mentioned before, I just got set up with a new arrangement, so I'm trying to kind of make this work. Um, my family and I were shopping at Costco one night, and we found something called Bachan's Japanese barbecue sauce. I don't know if you've heard of it before,
I haven't.
but it's incredible. I try to put it on everything that I can. My wife and family make fun of me for it, but it's so incredible. It's a lot like a marinade for those out there who don't know. So it's a very, very thin sauce. It's not a typical barbecue sauce, but it's so very good.
Awesome. Awesome.
It's good stuff. Okay, so to kick things off, now that we've got the icebreaker question, I usually like to try to talk about, try to get into, what is and what make the stuff that makes you who you are as a person. So, the concept of fueled by weird is, all the hobbies, interests, all the stuff like that, that you're into when you're not working or whatever, come together to make you who you are, or, what fuels your weird. So,
Right.
when you're not busy working, what are some of your hobbies and interests that you like to do?
So, uh, my father was in the Air Force. So when we were growing up, we were moving around a lot. Every 2 or 3 years we would change locations. And when my father retired, he settled in a small town called Paris, Texas, which is where I'm currently at now. That's where my dad still lives. And but when we got to Texas, I was a sophomore in high school.
Okay.
In high school, this was spring of 77, fall of 78. So I started my sophomore year, the fall of 78. And that was the first year that I was introduced to the game of Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, nice.
And so that's something that's been with me for all of my adult life. And I continue to play it to this day. Kind of playing a different iteration of it now called Shadow Dark. And
Yeah,
I work on that kind of weekly. So it's my escape. It's my way to stay creative and tell stories and stay in touch with something that's been a part of my life since I was 16 years old. So yeah.
that's awesome. I actually have a friend, shout out to Rulin. He actually has started playing a lot more Shadow Dark, and he has a real good time with it.
Very cool. Very
That's
cool.
cool. And man, Zordon is your dungeon master. How more awesome could it get?
Right, right.
That's incredible. All right. So, like I mentioned, before we got started, I did some research, listened to some other interviews you've done recently. Well, not recently, other interviews that you've done. And I know that, the thing that originally inspired you to become an actor in the first place was you would watch Adam West's Batman. So I want to see if maybe you want to expound on that a little bit and just kind of see like what it was and like what specifically it was that kind of got you, inspired to
Sure.
do that.
It wasn't just Adam West. It was a bunch of things from like the late 60s, early 70s, like
Okay.
Planet of the Apes,
Okay.
um, anything that had to do with um, a heightened sense of reality, like Jason and the Argonauts or
Okay.
uh, The Golden Voyage of Sinbad. These movies that had this sort of epic feel to them. Um, what in modern day is kind of like that was my MCU back then, was anything that had to do with something that was outside of real life. That's what I wanted to be a part of. And so I was always acting out my comic books for my parents, and um, I read a lot. I read a lot of uh, pulp novels, Doc Savage, the Spider, um, um, just a bunch of that type of novels. I was really into Tarzan for a while. A lot of Edgar Rice Burroughs and Robert E. Howard, Conan, all that kind of stuff. And as I got older and the film started to get better as far as visuals. The visuals, like in the you watch some of these movies from the 70s that like Journey to the Center of the Earth or something like that, and the special effects were really kind of cheesy.
Yeah.
Um, uh, and I was a big fan of Godzilla and kaiju and big rubber monsters. It was awesome. Anything that had to do with that, I was
Yeah.
like, that's the kind of stuff I wanted to be involved in.
Sure.
And that's why I got into acting. And of course, as I started to go through acting and learning the craft of the art of acting and uh did a lot of Shakespeare. So my I kind of got away from doing what I consider to be like epic movies and started like thinking that it would be really great to be like a really a working actor, somebody who was doing a lot of stuff and doing the dramatic roles and the award-winning stuff. But there was always that part of me that was like, man, they need to make a Dungeons and Dragons movie, and if they make that Dungeons and Dragons movie, I want to be a part of it. But of course, that didn't happen. It didn't work out that way. But that's what got me started. That's what really sort of fueled my um, desire to get up on the stage and entertain people. That's what that started from. So yeah.
Awesome. Very cool. And like you mentioned, all the pulp stories and the pulp comics from back in the day. Those are so underrated. And I think that, it would be cool if, more people were be able to be introduced to comics like that just because the stories are so incredible.
Yeah, they're really great. I don't think they hold up as well as far as
Yeah.
the whole yellow peril and all that
Oh,
kind of stuff.
yeah, for sure.
It doesn't really. There's a lot of racism and other
Yeah.
things that are part of it. Like, but then again, if you cut that stuff out, it loses an element that made those stories what they were. And they were of a time, and I've I know in some other life I was like a noir detective. I lived a black and white life, and I had a brick brownstone office somewhere, and I sat up there with my feet on the desk, and somebody would walk through the door, and I'd take the job. That would I really love the noir aesthetic, and so when Spider Noir drops later this month, I'm gonna be like glued to the TV
Oh
screen.
yeah, for sure.
Um, but yeah, that time period, the late 20s, 30s, and early 40s, man, if I could have lived then, that would have been awesome.
That
But
would
yeah,
be awesome. And I
because
know.
those magazines were a dime a piece on the rack, and I'd be like, oh, take this off.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
I know my friend Alan and Ben, their company Green Archer Comics is actually kind of doing that. They're going back and taking a lot of the old pulp stories, they're kind of
Oh wow,
retelling them a
that's
little bit
awesome.
and putting them out. They're great comics. So shout out to Ben and Alan Liska of Green Archer Comics. If you're interested in pulp, go check those guys out because they're a couple of nice guys. Very nice guys. Okay, so now I kind of want to shift to, the topic everyone wants to come for, the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Now,
Right.
again, 10-year-old me, 12-year-old me is super excited because I'd have my mom record it on VHS, and a lot of people out there, actually, I think most people who listen to this know what VHS is.
Right.
But yeah, I'd have mom and dad record it so I could watch it when I come home. Just an incredible, incredible show. A lot of people know the story about, you went in to interview for Zordon, and they kind of did you dirty by just recording you once, and then that's kind of all they did.
Well, I
And
mean, we kind of frame it as they did me dirty now, but at the
yeah,
time, it was kind of standard. Not what they did to me was standard, but or the way that they went about creating the character was standard. But
sure,
um, they were very focused on the business taking the side. They didn't really have a great need to make the show great. They were all about selling the toys.
sure.
So they were just basically creating a 22-minute commercial so that people would rush to KB Toys and get the newest Fliphead Ranger or whatever it was. So I didn't feel like I got done dirty. I was just very disappointed by the fact that uh, I wanted it to be a little bit more of the experience that the other guys had. Like they were on set every day
Yeah,
and they got to work with a director every day. They got to, you know, all of the stuff that I wanted to experience, like being on set, seeing how they set the lights and changing locations. And that was the kind of thing that I was looking forward to. And I feel like I kind of I missed out on that because even though I was grateful enough that, they put my name at the front of the credits, I didn't really feel like I was a part of the show because I was never on set with anybody else. They filmed me that one time for the pilot, and then they just recycled that footage over and over, and
yeah,
I would just go in and do voices. So I felt very much like Zordon. I was very separated from everybody, and yeah, it was just a sense of disappointment. I don't, and yeah, when you look back on it, they did do me dirty because I made less than $1,000 on the show, and they made 1 billion the first year. So you
for
know.
sure.
We always talk about, if they'd only given us 0.01%, we'd all be like sitting pretty right now. But yeah.
For sure. Kind of going back to, you mentioned that you were into Jason and the Argonauts as a kid. That kind of totally makes sense when, I saw that you had made mention that your inspiration for Zordon was Zeus.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you want to talk a little bit about that? How you decided to, go with that for Zordon?
So, like I had said, I had grown up reading comic books and watching these movies, and I was also a huge fan of Greek myth.
Sure.
And I'm pretty sure that you had the Scholastic Book Club when you were going to school.
Yeah.
And so in the early 70s, the Scholastic Book Club, they gave us a little catalog, or I think they might have actually had an actual bookmobile that would come around to the school, and you could go into the truck and you could pick your book off the shelf and pay your 25 cents or your, 50 cents, however much the book cost. And one of the books that I bought was this book of Greek myths written for children. Even though one of the stories still was pretty violent, talked about a guy who was tying people to trees and then he would split them apart. But
Oh gosh.
uh, I was just very enamored of that kind of story, this mythic, epic, magic realism kind of thing. And of course, Clash of the Titans and all of that stuff. So when I was playing a lot of D&D and learning the craft of acting, there was always this part, you would always looking for scripts where you could do like the voice of the gods. If you could do like a play like from Euripides or Aeschylus or something like that, there was always a part where you could play the gods. And so and I also grew up watching Ultraman and Spectre Man and a lot of uh Japanese shows that they would bring over and then redub, like Battle of the Planets, Spaceship Yamamoto, all that kind of stuff. So when I auditioned for the part and they explained what it was, I was like, oh yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Uh, because I had watched that stuff growing up. And
Yeah.
the brief explanation that I got for the character was that he was a 10,000-year-old wizard trapped in a time warp. Go. And just the brief description and reading the lines that he was saying, I'm like, this is a guy who is he's bigger than life, so his voice needs to be bigger than life. And so
Sure.
what was than life for me was like Zeus on Mount Olympus, and that's where the inspiration for that came from.
Absolutely. No, I think it works perfectly. I couldn't imagine it any other way. I know you had mentioned that the other guy who auditioned had kind of a more high pitched, like mad
Yeah,
scientist.
yeah, he was going for a real, attend the viewing globe, and I was like, not really sure that's what they need, So, but
More
yeah,
kind of like an alpha, really.
yeah, yeah.
That's kind of crazy. So you kind of answered my next question. If you ever interacted with the other Rangers, it sounds like you kind of just got put in a recording booth, kind of isolated by yourself.
Well, I met them all, the original cast when I auditioned. At that time, Audrey Dubois was the Yellow Ranger, so she was on the front row with Austin St. John and Walter and Amy and David, and uh, so I met them then, and they were there um, when I filmed, but then I didn't see them all again for another 20 years after that. So
Wow.
yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, I watched that documentary recently because I never knew that there was a different Yellow Ranger at first. That was kind of a wild thing to find out.
Yeah, yeah. Audrey's wonderful. I love her.
That's awesome. Yeah, she seemed like a really nice lady.
Yeah.
So next, did you have any favorite monsters or favorite characters from the show?
Goldar is my favorite monster.
Okay.
Just because I just love the design of him.
Yeah,
There are a number of the creature and character designs that I really like. Finster, I think, is awesome.
I agree.
Magnum Defender and what's the other one? The one monster that always creeped me out for whatever reason was Pudgy Pig because his arms came out of his mouth, and I was like, I don't something wrong about that.
Yeah.
So that kind of like weirded me out, but it was kind of fun to go into the recording booth and go, a giant purse, we're fighting. Oh, okay, all right. So that was the kind of goofy thing, but yeah, those were some of my favorites and not so favorites. I'll put it that way.
Awesome. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Now, of the original cast or any of the Rangers throughout, that you I guess had the chance to interact with, are there any that you still keep in touch with nowadays?
Oh yeah, I mean, whenever we see each other at conventions, it's like not a day has gone by. We're just we go to dinner, we have fun, we talk about stuff. So it's not like we chat every day or I get a text from them every day because people have their own lives and they're doing their own thing. But
Yeah,
we're all on good terms as far as I know. There could be people out there that don't like me, but I don't, I don't know. But every ranger that I've met from different seasons and different times, they're all great. And I've said this a number of times. I don't know what it is about the water that they give them during casting process, but I mean, it's just they end up picking people that have like these really big hearts, and they're just really great people. So. Um, I hope I get to, continue to hang out with them from
sure.
time to
Yeah,
time.
that's awesome. I'm glad that even if it's at a con or whatever, it's cool that
Yeah.
you guys still kind of keep in touch. That's cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Um, so you said in an interview once that with the whole concept of the Power Rangers, with them having helmets, really anybody could be a ranger. So if you could be a ranger, what color would you be?
Probably some shade of blue,
Okay,
bluish silver or something like that. Blue's always been sort of a favorite color of mine.
sure.
Um, and people ask me, who's my favorite ranger, and I really don't have a favorite ranger. I think they're all great.
Yeah.
I did identify with Billy's character because I was nerdy like him. I wore
Yep.
glasses, and Triceratops was my favorite dinosaur.
Sure.
I identify with the Billy character, but yeah, some shade of blue. I mean, what they did with him in the Boom comics, I thought, okay, yeah, I could do that. That's right there.
For
So yeah,
sure. It's been so incredible how they've kind of just made Billy this amazing powerhouse character.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and like you, I originally gravitated toward Billy too, for the same reason, glasses nerdy kid, and it kind of was David was the first way that I knew that, you could be a nerd and still be a hero, which I thought
yeah.
was incredible. So
I always thought he had like the toughest job,
oh,
uh,
for sure.
because they gave him these lines that had these really big words. So, I was like, oh man, to try to say some of those words, in a sentence and sort of make it believable. I thought it was a good job. So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. He was incredible. I mean, and of course, once Jason David Frank came along, like I had two favorite Power Rangers at that point, but
Right. Right.
David Yost has always been hold a special place in my heart.
Yeah.
So now I kind of want to transition into your voice acting and your video game work. So what was it
Okay.
that, or how did you manage to transition, out of Hollywood into voice acting and video games?
So, that was one of the things that was really great about going to Hollywood because even though I didn't get to do what I had wanted to do, which was to be on set and to get the TV show or movie type experience that I was looking forward to, I did get a different kind of experience, which was um, voice acting. I had done very few voice jobs before that. But here's with a chance where I got to be in the booth kind of like on a regular basis. And because I got to know the engineers well, they tapped me to do a couple of side projects and stuff. I don't think they ever went anywhere or they ever made it out into the wild or whatever, but they would say, well, Dave comes in here, because whenever we would do the recording, they would book me for a 2 hour block because that was the standard thing at that time is like if they brought you into the booth, they had to guarantee that you would get paid for 2 hours or
Yeah,
whatever. So they had set aside 2 hour block, but there were so many times when I would go in there and I would be done within the first half hour. So I tried my best not to make mistakes, and the engineers in the booth noted that and noted that Dave gets in here, he gets the job done, he doesn't waste time. And so, they would tap me for other things. And so once I left LA and I moved back to the city of Pittsburgh, and got myself an agent there, I got sent out on a couple of voice commercials and voice jobs. And then one of the jobs they sent me out for was uh, to do voices for a video game that was being made by a company in a town that was like a half-hour drive from where I lived, called Dreamforge Entertainment. And so I drove out there and got to see the game that the guys were working on. And I was really getting into video games at that point, playing a lot of Doom and Quake and all that kind of stuff. And so they were working on this what they call gold box D&D game. So I was very into that. And
yeah,
they did Stone Prophet and Menzo Berenzin. And so I got to do the voice of Drizzt Do'Urden, which was huge because he's such a big character in the D&D world for the Forgotten Realms and all that kind of
yeah,
stuff. And then luckily enough, I got along well enough with those guys that they brought me in to do voices for other games and also tapped me to write the clue book for one of the games that they were doing because I wanted to learn about how do I write for video games and that
yeah.
sort of thing. And so then it just snowballed from there. And then once I left Pittsburgh and moved outside of Boston, I went to work for a couple of video game developers in the Boston area and just started doing it kind of like as a job. So,
That's awesome. Kind of hit it from both sides.
yeah, kind of.
Very, very cool. Now, speaking of, your work as a writer and, working with the Power Rangers, I want to talk a little bit about the Order. So
Sure.
you got to team up with a bunch of other former Rangers
Yep.
in a project that was kind of very Ranger-esque, but more kind of like grown-up Ranger.
Yeah.
Why don't we talk a little bit about how that came together?
So, one of the first Rangers that I met that was not part of when I was there was Karen Ashley, the second Yellow Ranger,
Hmm.
who is wonderful. She's just a beaming ball of sunshine. Um, she uh, had they've been telling, every time they would go to conventions, they would get the ask, when are you guys going to get to back together again? When are you going to act together again? And so I think they had a couple of projects that were going along, and somebody had written a script, but the script wasn't good enough, or the whatever for whatever reason. Anytime that they tried to get together, it would fall apart for one reason or another.
Sure.
So Karen said, "Well, screw this. I just want to do it myself." And I guess she had mentioned this to Austin St. John, and Austin said, "Well, you should talk to David. David's a writer. He might, have some insight into that." So we started chatting, and we found out very quickly that we had a really great working relationship as far as bouncing ideas off of one another and trading pages back and forth. And I did this. What do you think about this? Oh, that's great. What if we tweak this? Oh, yeah. And so we started to brainstorm ideas for a project. And the first idea that we came up with was sort of like a smaller cast, smaller group of people that was more like an Ocean's 11 type thing, where these former Ranger actors would take down the ultra rich jerk guy and they would like turn the tables on him. And but then I can't remember what the impetus was for us to change it, but we started to think, well, this needs to be a little bit more action oriented. It needs to be, let's showcase the skills that, they did on set, but just without the costumes. So we came up with this idea of this uh, non-governmental aligned group that would travel around the world to hotspots and take care of shit and then disappear. They were like this, they were the covert ops of they were the covert of the covert. Nobody knew who they were. They were nameless, faceless, this kind of thing. And that's where we came up with the order. And then, of course, one of the things that people always wanted to see was when Rangers fight Rangers. So we had to have a split in the middle of it. That, one side teams up on this side and the other, and then we just battle it out. And so that was the script that we came up there that turned into the order. So yeah,
That's awesome. So kind of like a like an Expendables kind of thing.
yeah, yeah,
That's very cool. Very, very cool. And speaking of you being a writer, has that been something you've always been into, like even back with your younger D&D days? Is that something you kind of got into later in life?
yeah. I mean, I would write stories for my brother and sister. I wrote them a Christmas story one year and read it to them on Christmas Eve. And of course, playing D&D, I had to write stories. I had to come up with character backgrounds. And then when you get into the world of acting and theater, there's a lot of writing involved as far as like script analysis and breaking down, what is actually the motivation for this character. And when I got to my Master of Fine Arts, my MFA program, I had to create my own thesis show, write my own thesis show, and so the written word has always been something that has, again, been a part of me since I was 14, 15 years old. And of course, I started off doing what everybody else does. I mean, uh, I rewrote the stories that I had read before. I would
Sure.
rewrite different versions of the Greek myths, or I would take a stab at rewriting a Stephen King short story, and just, you learn by mimicking, and then you find your own voice and you start writing your own things. So yeah, it's always been a part of who I am. Yeah.
That's cool. And that was something I didn't know, before I started looking into you that you were a published author, which is awesome. I saw you had some stories published with Source Point Press.
Yeah.
My friend Dirk runs Source Point Press now, so that's
Oh, awesome.
super
Well, tell Dirk
exciting.
I said hello. Yeah.
I will. So yeah, you've got tons of short stories out there. I'm definitely going to look into those because you have a lot of superhero ones.
Yeah.
Steampunk is something I'm super big into, so I'm going to go check those out. And also, one story that I mentioned in the beginning, Lincoln Bright
Yeah.
seems incredible.
Yeah.
I decided to do that because usually with my intros, I like to kind of gear them, toward, specific about who I'm talking with.
Yeah.
And everyone's going to expect Zordon. So I wanted to kind of throw a little bit of a curveball in there.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Lincoln Bright for a minute. It sounds like a really cool concept.
Yeah.
So why don't we talk about it?
Sure. So, in the year 2010, I think, or 2000, no, it's 2013, actually. I had gone through a divorce, had had a couple of years bouncing around, trying to get my feet back under me, and in 2000, the late summer, early fall of 2013, I got an idea for a story called Lincoln Bright and the Cold, Cold Ground. And it was a ghost story. It was about this guy who could see ghosts and how he could um, release them or send them on their way. That was the whole thing. And this is going to sound very therapeutic or psychological or whatever, but it wasn't until I was like 10,000 words deep into the story that I realized, oh, this is about my marriage. This is about me exercising all of that bad stuff and letting it go. That's what it turned out to be. Um, but that's where I came up with the character, and the name Lincoln Bright was just something that popped into my head. It's a very interesting name, for a couple of reasons. One is that, he's this sort of John Constantine, Carl Kolchak, deals with the supernatural kind of guy, but his name is the name of a president plus the word bright. It's this very strange mash of stuff.
Sure.
Uh, and and then once I had finished the story, and somebody said, "Hey, this is really great. We'd like to put it out." And I'm like, "Fantastic! That's awesome." And then I started to develop that, and that was the first time I thought, well, maybe I should try to turn this into a novel, because up to that point, I've been doing just a bunch of short stories because, 6, 7,000 words, you get through it. Novel, you're talking 100,000 words or more, so
Yeah.
it's tough. And but Lincoln just kept, poking his head out saying, "Hey, when are you going to finish this? Hey, when are you going to finish this?" So and that's when I sat down and finally, completed the novel Glims, and that was the first one. So yeah,
Very cool. It's kind of funny how when you are a writer and that, that personal stuff kind of comes out, it does feel very therapeutic where, someone doesn't realize, this incredible story is about something that was deeply personal or, deeply hurtful. And that's, kind of the joys and the bad parts of being a writer, right? Is, you're able to kind of express yourself and get all these feelings out and kind of just, take that weight off your shoulders. And then, you just have to be vulnerable kind of, when
yeah,
you've got the people out there reading your story.
yeah. There's a real craft to it because you just don't want to, lay it all out there and say this is what it's
Yeah,
all about. You have to be kind of sneaky about it, and not necessarily sneaky, but you have to do it in a way that um, can be interpreted however the reader wants to interpret it.
yeah,
And I had read somewhere, or I had saw somewhere, that one of the great joys of a writer is um, knowing that somewhere is someone you've never met, probably will never meet, but they will read something that you have written down, a sentence or a paragraph, and they'll go, "I feel exactly the same way." And that's the goal, I think, is to always try to write something that somebody will pick up and go, he gets it. He understands. And so that's always what I'm in the back of my mind about stuff. So
absolutely. All right. So another thing I want to talk about is, the convention circuit. So what was it that, got you to decide like, hey, I want to try out the convention circuit?
so up until about 2009, I had completely forgotten all about Power Rangers. I had moved on. I had been doing other things, and I wasn't watching kids' television programming. I wasn't paying attention to what was going on. I would every now and then, like at Halloween, I would see, oh, there's somebody dressed as a Power Ranger. That's, mother.
Yeah.
And it was always sort of an interesting anecdote that I could tell people at parties. Oh yeah, I was on this kids' TV show. You might have heard about it. And I'm like, oh wow, yeah. But in 2009, about when Facebook was starting to come online and everybody was joining Facebook, and I would keep getting messages from strangers saying, "Hey, weren't you that guy that played Zordon?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, yeah. What happened to that show? What's going on with that show?" And you start to dig, and you're like, "Holy crap, it's still going on."
Yeah.
And you learn that, oh wow, it's gone through. Whatever happened to my character? Oh, they killed him off. Why did they kill him off? And so in 2011, I was living in Pittsburgh, and I got invited by a local promoter for a um, anime or manga Toku-Con called Tekasho-Con.
Hmm.
And that was the first time that I sat on a stage in front of Power Rangers fans and understood how much the show had an impact on people. People would ask me questions and they would tell me stories about what the show meant to them and how I just remember to this day this young guy getting up and saying, "I came from a broken home. You guys were the only bright spot in my day, and you were like my second father." So that's when the impact was like, "Oh, it's not just a haha, I did the show kind of thing. This is kind of serious." So
Yeah,
I've always tried to live up to that from that point because it's important to be respectful about what people feel about this thing. Because there's a lot of very cheesy aspects to Power Rangers. It's
absolutely.
rated cheese with extra cheese for a
Yeah.
reason. But it's still impactful, and you hear so many stories from people about that's inspired them to go on to become an EMS person or somebody who has joined the military because they wanted to serve, and you understand that it was a kind of goofy kid show, but it also inspired people. So um, in 2014, I was contacted by Scott Zillner and the folks at Power Morphicon saying, "Hey, we would love to come out to Power Morphicon." And I said, "I would love to. I just can't afford to fly myself out there and put myself up in a hotel." And they were like, "Oh, no, no, we'll do that." And I was like, "Oh, okay, sure." And I went out there like a hobo with nothing. I didn't have a prince. I didn't have a banner. I didn't have anything. And I was very uncomfortable with the whole exchange thing that would happen. So I had agreed to, if people wanted to pay me for stuff, I would donate that to the No Hate campaign, which I was a big supporter of and still am.
Yeah.
And so that first year going out to Power Morphicon was like mind blowing because there were so many different Rangers there from so many different seasons, and everybody knew who I was, and I didn't know them, and um, it was awesome. And that was when I was approached by an agent to say, "Hey, uh, where are your prints?" And I said, "I don't have any." And an hour later, he came back and slapped two different images of Zordon on the table and said, "You sign those." And then the following weekend, I was in Texarkana sitting next to Peter Mayhew, who was Chewbacca, and we're
Wow.
doing the signing together. Um, and it just kind of started from there. And it became, there are times when it's very surreal when you're eating lunch with people that I used to watch on television and go, "That's insane that Sam Jones, who played Flash Gordon, knows my name. That's crazy." So it's very surreal, it's very humbling, and it's very awesome all at the same time. So I'm I've been doing it for a little over a decade now, so I think I kind of got a handle on it. But
Oh,
it's
for sure.
always great to go out and meet people. So yeah,
Yeah, I can imagine that, as long as you've been doing it, you think, you have an idea of what you're going to expect, but then you probably almost always just get totally overwhelmed with
yeah.
the
There's
response.
always a surprise one way or the
Yeah.
other, and it's it's taken me to places in the world that I probably would never have gotten a chance to go to. So that's great. And, I'm looking forward to Idaho Falls because there's some great, beautiful country there. So I'm looking to, forward to that. And it's just, I, how do I phrase this? It's very, it's very humbling to have someone tell you that they love you and you've never met them before,
Sure.
or that somebody in a different country knows my name and has nothing but goodwill towards me because of one little thing I did one day nearly 35 years ago. Um, so it's great. But I'm always very sort of aware. of how much, I where I'm at is because of all of the guys, all the fans out there that said, "Hey, we want to meet this guy." So yeah, always aware of that.
For sure. That's got to be a great feeling. I mean,
Yeah.
and it's kind of like goes back to what you said about your writing, being able to write something that someone you'll never meet will pick up and read and say, I understand that. I mean, you kind of accomplished that with Zordon. I mean, not
Yeah.
necessarily that they're gonna remember, go make your way around the viewing globe. That's not probably not going to, resonate with somebody, but just the fact that you made an impact on so many people that you might not ever meet is got to be
Yeah.
very,
I mean,
very
it's really easy to get caught up in your own crap, and
sure.
we're always bombarded with so many negative things all the time. And
Absolutely.
it's easy to focus on the negative. I mean, I was in a bad mood earlier today, and I was like, "Why am I in a bad mood? I don't know. I'm just in a bad mood." But then you take a step back and you realize that we're all in this shit together, and if we don't find a way to figure it out, things could get really bad. But you have to recognize the fact that we are all connected. We're all the same, and we all have shared experience. And if we could just focus on that rather than all the other crap, things might get better. Maybe.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's very easy to kind of understand, being in a bad mood. I mean, just look around at everything all over. There's so much negative lately all the time. It's hard to stay positive, but I mean, even if you can do it and, change one person's day, I mean that's, one person is all it takes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we could have a whole other conversation about the history of humanity and how it's the
Oh
story of,
yeah.
of humankind, but
Yeah,
that's a 3 hour conversation for another time. So,
absolutely.
yeah.
Now you kind of mentioned that you're excited for Idaho Falls. Have you ever been around the area before?
Um, when my father was transferred from Colorado Springs to McCord Air Force Base in Washington, we drove up north to Indiana to visit my grandparents, and then we drove from Indiana up across the north of the United States and passed through Idaho, but we didn't stop there.
Mm.
So this will be like my first stop in Idaho. So I'm very excited about that.
Very cool. Yeah, so for those that don't know, David's going to be at Retro X here in just a couple of weeks. Retro X is a brand new convention, even for us. For a longest time, to go to anything kind of like this, we'd have to drive 4 hours in a couple of different directions to even get something like this. So the fact that uh, Phil and Dawn are putting on this amazing show right here in town, and it's like 10 minutes from my house. It's such a great thing, and we're so thankful and so grateful to have you come and visit.
Looking forward to it. Can't wait.
Very exciting. So one thing I wanted to ask was I meant to ask this earlier, so it's kind of, going out of order, so I apologize.
No worries.
Kind of like the Ninja Turtles, where, every few years, you get a new reintroduction of turtles, and every single generation of kids are getting reintroduced to the Ninja Turtles. Matter of fact, myself, my oldest daughter who's 18, and my youngest daughter who's 10, all of them are fans of the Turtles, from, whatever different, you know, uh orientation or generation of turtles. Power Rangers is doing the same thing. And it seems that, the original, Mighty Morphin, that seems to be the most popular one. That one's getting redone all the time. You've got the reignition stuff, the brand new toys that are out, the new video games that are out. Even where they're going back and redoing all the old classic episodes and, updating the graphics and all of that. How does it feel to know that, basically for every new generation, I'm a millennial myself. I'm a 41-year-old dude who, like I've mentioned before, lived on Power Rangers. I've got a whole shelf of nerd stuff back here that's just dedicated to Power Rangers.
Awesome.
Um, how does it feel to know that, you've got all these different generations of people who know who you are?
It's very surreal. I think on some level, every actor at some point practices signing their autograph.
Yeah.
Uh, but you never really sort of expect that to happen. That to have a kind of career that like Ryan Gosling has, or like Nicolas Cage, or Kurt Russell, something like that. That's a one in a million kind of thing.
Sure.
But I mean, I think every actor sort of, has that fantasy of like standing in line and signing their autograph and, waving the cameras and stuff like that. But you never really expect it. And then, so, having to sit at a table and sign my autograph is still very sort of, wow, wow, this is crazy.
Sure.
But it's also awesome, because, uh, I like to think that I was there for a reason, that I was prepared enough when I walked into that room to deliver what they were looking for. And so there was something about me, something about my voice that they said, that's the quality that we need. And that is the quality that comes through in the character, I think. And that's what speaks to people. So, I, on one hand, there's that small part of me that says you earned this. And then there's that really big, huge part of me like, I can't believe this is happening. It's very surreal. And I always try to be, like I said before, I always try to treat it with respect and to honor your experience, because that's what you're here for, is
Sure.
to speak to somebody who at the time was larger than life, and now they're sitting in front of you and they're just a regular dude. So yeah, I get it. So
For
yeah, and
sure.
I'm very grateful for that. So thank you.
Well, we're very grateful for you, sir. One more thing before I let you go.
Sure.
What is a bit of advice that you now would give your younger self?
All right. Well, there's one that I'll say offline, but then there's
Okay.
one that I said, don't stress so much. Enjoy what you're going through rather than continue. You continue to push yourself, but just don't be so hard on yourself. Don't be so down on yourself all the time. That would be my best advice, because we always have that voice in the back of our heads, oh, you're not good enough for this, or you did that
Oh yeah.
wrong. So if you could find a way to tell that voice to shut the hell up, or kick it out of your head completely, do that,
Yeah.
because life is too short. Enjoy the moment that you have, and um, you know, just enjoy being you. That would be my best advice. So yeah.
That's some good advice. Definitely some advice that I myself can relate to because I can tell you if I was to tell younger Chris, hey, you're going to talk to Zordon one day, I would say there's no way in hell that's ever going to happen. So it's yeah, I totally get it. So I want to give you a chance now to go ahead and plug yourself.
Sure.
Let's tell the people, where can we keep up to date with stuff that you're doing, appearances and any other projects you're doing. Where can we find you?
You can find me on TikTok at David J. Fielding. You can find me on Instagram at DJ Fielding underscore Zordon. Those are basically my two go-to social medias. I dropped Facebook and Twitter a long time ago.
Good for
Uh,
you.
um, but yeah, that's where you can find me. The week before Idaho, I'll be in Indianapolis for Indiana Comic Con. And then after that, I after Idaho Falls, um, I go to Ottawa, Canada, and then if we still have the jet fuel available, I'll be flying to the United Kingdom in the middle of July. So yeah.
Very cool. All right, well, for me, I want to thank Polygon Horizon. Their song Pizza Force is the song I use for the show. Make sure you go check them out on Bandcamp and SoundCloud. They're great guys, and it's a great song, so go show them some love. You can find Fueled by Weird on Instagram, Facebook, on TikTok. Also, shoot me an email at fueledbyweird@gmail.com. Check out my friend Hassel Hutchison. He's got a channel, The Nerdy Man Room Show, where he talks. He has his own show, The Nerdy Man Room Show. He does Hassel Review, where he does unboxings and other things like that. Card Subject to Change is a what if for pro wrestling. So if you're a pro wrestling fan, go check that out. And Big Rob's House of Entertainment and No Chinese Food. My friend Big Rob, he does a lot of toy hauls and reviews. And when both of these guys find out I talked to Zordon, they're both gonna just lose it. Um, those two guys are my good friends. Us and our friend Monster, we've made the Stay Weird Network. It's a podcast network dedicated to bringing some awesome back to the internet. Check us out at Stay Weird Network on YouTube and Instagram. And you can shoot us an email at stayweirdnetwork@gmail.com. I apologize. I haven't done a podcast in like a month, so I'm a little bit rusty. If you like the show, please leave a review and tell your friends because word of mouth is my friend. And remember, kids, it's only weird if you make it weird. So make it real weird. David, thanks so much for joining me tonight, sir. I
You
appreciate it.
bet. My pleasure.